You know that an octagon has 8 sides, but that October is the 10th month. In fact, it's worse than that. All of September, October, November, and December are named for numbers, and none of their numbers is correct. If that's always bothered you, but you've never looked up why, then join us while we answer a question from SQSR-mom. Why is October not the 8th month? So there's a super common but wrong answer here, which is that Augustus Caesar inserted 2 months before September, July and August, and that threw off all the numbers. It is true that Augustus created the months July and August, but he just took over 2 existing months, named Quinctilis and Sextilis, and those meant, of course, 5th month and 6th month. 2 related factoid tangents before we move on. First, while we can already see it with September, Quinctilis definitely shows us that the names here are Latin, not Greek. You may remember that geometric shapes are generally named with Greek numbers, such as the pentagon, penta being Greek for 5. But just like the German 9 and English 9 are the same-ish, the Greek and Latin for 8 and 10 are similar. Second, if you find yourself transported back to the Roman Empire, like in Lest Darkness Fall, you should pronounce 10-month as December with a hard C, not a soft C. From what I can tell, in classical Latin, C was always pronounced like a K, but for some reason clerical Latin decided that CE and CI should have an S sound. Right. The misnumbering. The oldest known calendar for Rome was a little slipshod by today's standards. The year began on the day of the new moon before the spring equinox. In the Gregorian calendar, that event falls around March 20th, so the Roman year began anywhere between what we now call February 20th and March 21st. The first month of the year was Martius, named after Mars, the Roman god of war. That was followed by Aprilis, possibly named for Aphrodite, even though the Roman version was Venus. Then Maius, named for the goddess Maya, who modern historians believe there was an independent Italic Maya and Greek Maya, and they sort of got merged together at some point. Then there's Junius, named for the goddess Juno. Yes, that is Junius, with an I. After those, the Romans apparently got tired of naming things, because the 4 god months were just followed by 5th month through 10th month. And you might be thinking, so months were longer then. No. It's just that in agrarian Rome, there wasn't really anything important that happened in deep winter, so they didn't bother making any months for it. December 30 was followed by about 61 days of Please Stand By. King Numa Pompilius decided that 61 days left enough for him to carve out 2 new months, so he created Januarius, devoted to Janus, and Februarius, which means purging or purifying. Ancient scholars disagree as to whether Numa had Februarius as the 12th month or the 2nd, but by the time of the scholar Livy, or Titus Livius to his mother, the year numbering had changed to January 1st. Livy claims it happened in what we now call 153 BC, which is about 550 years after Numa Pompilius created those months. Assuming, of course, that it was actually Numa Pompilius who created them. The Roman tradition and or history has it that Numa Pompilius was the 2nd king of Rome, after Romulus himself. So there's always the possibility that things get attributed to him that were old but not super old. Like, you probably know that the Star-Spangled Banner was not the national anthem under George Washington. So, must have been Thomas Jefferson. Nope. It was written 5 years after Jefferson left office, and it didn't become the national anthem until 1931, which is 124 years after Jefferson left office. The Romans made January 1st the beginning of the year in or before 153 BC, and it has always been that way, right? No. No. And not just things like Chinese New Year. Even if we limit the scope to just Europe, things were all higgledy-piggledy for 2,000 years or so. Maybe that can be the topic of another video. And while we can see the October isn't the 8th month very clearly when we date Halloween as 1031, or 3110 in Europe, Using pure numbers for the month seems to be a relatively recent invention. The oldest document that I can find that has a date without giving the name of the month is from a land purchase on the 17th of the 9th month, 1687, which was probably actually November. Boy, the date reform in 1752 must have come as a real shock to them. So, there you have it. October was created as the 8th of 10 months. It probably then became the 8th of 12, and then New Year's Day moved from March 1st to January 1st, leaving 6 of the months with weird names. Augustus Caesar did not cause that problem. He, in fact, made it less bad by changing the names 5 and 6 to honor Julius and Augustus. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope you liked your answer. See you next time for another simple question and simple response.